Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Haley Mitchell-Haugen. I'm the editor of Sheila-Na-Gig Online and Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. And tonight we have gathered to celebrate Cathy Essinger and the publication of Telling the Bees. Very cool little cover there, her bee friends. Very excited to have this out in the world. So thank you all for coming here to support Cathy. And we also have four readers tonight in our invited mic who all happen to also be Sheila-Na-Gig Editions authors. So we have a super treat tonight with all of these amazing authors here. So very happy to have you all. I'm going to start with reading one of the blurbs from the back of the book. This is from Marjorie Maddox, and she couldn't be here tonight, but I thought I'd read this blurb just to give folks a sense of the book. And I'll read your bio, Cathy, as well. This is from Marjorie Maddox. It's a simple art, this honey making, if you know the recipe, reads the epigraph for Cathy Essinger's new collection, Telling the Bees. Indeed, Essinger knows the recipe to all topics poetry, the sweet and the painful, the mouth-watering and the dangerous. We're told in the first person, here is the land of remembered things, memory's dark home. In these precise and powerful poems, Essinger bears witness across generations to the caregiving and traditions that define a home, as well as to the ailments and wars that threaten it. Populated with creatures, trees, flowers, food, and of course, bees, these poems bless us. May we proclaim with the poet, we are doing our best to live a life worth dying for. That's beautiful. We're going to hear a lot more of that. Cathy Essinger is the author of 5 previous books of poetry, most recently The Apricot and the Moon and Wings, or Does the Caterpillar Dream of Flight, both from Das Mondres Press. My Dog Does Not Read Plato was published by Main Street Rag, along with What I Know About Innocence, which includes a video poem, Dark Flower, by her son, Dave Essinger. Her first book, A Desk in the Elephant House, won the Walt McDonald First Book Award from Texas Tech University Press. Her poems have appeared in Poetry, The Southern Review, The New England Review, Echo Tone, Terrain, Org, Rattle, The MacGuffin, and other journals, including Sheila-Na-Gig. They have been nominated for Pushcarts and Best of the Net, featured on the Writer's Almanac, and reprinted in American Life and Poetry. She lives in Troy, Ohio, where she raises butterflies and tries to live up to her dog and cat's extravagant expectations. We have great expectations of Cathy tonight, and I'm sure she will not disappoint us. Welcome, Cathy. Great to have you here.
Oh, thank you. And I'll do my best not to disappoint you. I always say when I talk about these topics that these are the things that I promised myself I was not going to write about. And so obviously I ended up writing about them. Many of these poems are about the World War II generation, my parents' generation. My brother and I took care of them for 3 years when they were in their 90s. And I am just still impressed with the World War II generation, just that resilience, the resourcefulness, and their optimism. They just assumed that they could do something, and they went in there and did it. I'll read the title poem because my father was the beekeeper in the family. He just did it as a hobby. But he was very in tune with nature, let's put it that way. Telling the Bees. Oh, this book depends upon knowing that legend that if you're supposed to tell the bees what's happening in the family, that you need to tell them about deaths and weddings and births and things of the sort, so they will stay, so they'll feel like they're part of the family. So Telling the Bees. When my father died, I stood in front of the hive and by tradition said, the beekeeper is dead. I am the new beekeeper. I didn't know if that was a promise or a threat. I wanted to say, you can leave if you like, but we hope that you will stay. The same thing I wish I had said to my father, although his choices were already made. 2 years later, bees are still coming and going at the hive, although they have raised a new queen after a brutal winter. What can we offer in return for honey? Shelter from the wind, sugar water in the spring, medicine for pneumonia and mites. Still, I feel like a thief as we calm them with smoke, wave the workers aside with gloved hands, find the queen deep in the hive, surrounded by her keepers. Lifting the heavy golden frames, we choose only the ones they have capped. We set new frames, install the baffles to keep out beetles, and then weight the lid of the hive with a stone to deter skunks and weasels or mice who might overwinter there. We step back to watch as the workers regroup, return to their familiar work. They set off on tangents known to them and the sun, while we stand motionless, still tethered to this place, grateful they remember the way home. And here's a poem about home. It's on page 17. Home. I show my mother an old picture of 5 girls with their arms linked, and although she can no longer tell you what day it is, she smiles and says, "Oh, Easter, 1945, the war is over." The boys are coming home from Japan, Okinawa, and the Philippines. No more dancing with other girls or with flat-footed 4F boys. Soon there will be sugar and butter, new shoes, kisses, and weddings. I'm wearing my last pair of silk stockings that your father sent from Hawaii. We were so happy. The girls are in flowered skirts, but my mother is wearing a cream-colored suit to complement her curves. Cut on the bias with a sculpted lapel, it is almost too stylish for Kirksville, Missouri. Where did you get the suit? I ask, and she replies, if I'm wearing it, I made it. She made her wedding gown, regretted the purchase of a headpiece, but there was no time. They had their lives to catch up on. The ivory gown was lost among many moves, but the cutlery and the kitchenware that my father brought home from the Navy, each piece labeled USN, they used for a lifetime. Mixing shortcake, stirring the soup, buttering the biscuits that came out of the oven so hot they were impossible to hold. My father would laugh as he tossed one from hand to hand, saying, "It doesn't get any better than this." And I'm going to read a poem titled In the Kitchen, 1956. And if you want to talk later about how difficult it is to publish this kind of a poem, I can tell stories. And I can explain why. In the Kitchen, 1956. At the breakfast table, my grandmother says, "I guess Lainey has gone off to have her baby." My mother nods to show that she has heard, and although I am still in grade school, I am beginning to understand things that go unsaid. I know that Lainey married, assuming her fiance was like her, and from listening at the pantry door, I know about other things as well. The stories that women tell while baking bread, shelling peas. I know that an infant was left on the minister's front porch, and once a newborn was handed to a young couple just as the carnival left town. Years later, I think about my playmates at the end of the street, beautiful girls with dark curly hair, and I wonder if they were siblings that Lainey did not bring home, babes that she left in the care of other women. Today, there is no one that I dare ask. My mother, well into her 80s, her memory fragile, and the past so near that sometimes she awakens with tears in her eyes, inconsolable, even as I, her grown daughter, try to comfort her as she explains, "I had that dream again that my children were born with dark skin and someone wanted to take them away from me." Let's read the poem Geranium Red. It's on page 33. I remember sitting at the cosmetic counter watching my mother try out lipstick and nail polish. And I remember thinking to myself, when I am grown up, I'm just going to wear red, just plain old red, because I got tired of her asking, what do you think of this? Geranium Red. The geraniums that I rescued from an early snow spent the winter in our sunroom, where they crowded the doors and littered the floor well into May. This morning, when I carried them to the porch, they left behind a trail of crimson petals, the color of my mother's favorite nail polish, geranium red, a true fashion statement in the 40s, which caused my father's friends to ask, is Charlie going to marry that city girl who paints her nails? Yes, he did. You can see the polish in their wedding photos. Although it is long before my time, red nail polish still reminds me of the photos of Eleanor Krauss, a fashionable New York matron who flew to Berlin in 1939, clutching a handful of American visas to rescue 50 Jewish children whose families she had never met. I think about those families who put their children on a train with just a kiss on the cheek. Smile, they said. Don't cry or wave goodbye. Don't frighten the children, or the guards will be suspicious. Today, the families are all gone, of course, and the children aged. But red nail polish is still my mother's favorite. As I sweep the petals, I forgive the geraniums for the mess they left behind, remembering how bravely they bloomed all winter and how they pressed their faces to the glass. I never intend to write about current events, but sometimes current events catch up with you, and you don't realize that you have written about it after all. I'm going to read the poem Another Land War. It's on page 35. And it's in two parts. The first part is in my mother's voice. The second is in a friend's voice. Another land war. How would I explain to my mother, gone for several years now, that there is another land war in Europe? She would be saddened, but not surprised. She who lived with only for letters from Italy, Japan, and the Philippines, telling my father, you must write every day because a letter that arrives on Friday tells me that you were alive on Tuesday. Every morning she woke to the static of the radio. Every night she sat with the newspaper in her lap, a map spread across the supper table, tracking the boys who used to sit on their porch, cigarette smoke rising around their faces. On the map, she circles Pompeii, Tokyo, Manila, Pongo Pongo, Berlin. Part 2. And what would I tell Erica, who clutched her copy of Gone with the Wind while Allied bombs fell around her in Vienna, who fled Austria ahead of the Russian tanks? She knew how to pack a suitcase, when to take the pictures from their frames. It is never too early to leave if you are walking, she said, and be sure of your destination if you are not. Lock the door if you're an optimist. Never mind if you are not. Put on your winter coat. Wear your best shoes. Trust everything of importance to memory, and don't look back. Believe me, you will never forget. Erica walked out of Vienna. Let's read some bee poems. Mail order bees. It's on page 65. When the post office calls at midnight to say that Dad's bees have come in, he slides a baton under the front seat. It's not a safe neighborhood in the middle of the night, although 10,000 bees in a box should deter almost anyone. We bring them home, freshen their water, set them in the garage for the night. By morning, they have freed the queen from her candy castle. We pour them into a clean hive, and soon everyone is minding their manners, humming along. We don't know when the queen made her maiden flight, came back with enough sperm to keep the hive producing. We hope she found some nice local boys, not the thugs from down the river, the ones who made the last hive turn mean. We'll wait to see how the kids turn out. How clearly, but clearly these girls know there is work to do and get right to it. If the hive becomes wild, we can always hope for a workers' revolt, hope they will raise another queen before booting the drones. But if anyone is planning a coup, we won't know until late in the summer. And by then, there will be enough honey for everyone. I lost my place. Let's read the Valentine month, which is a dog poem. It's on page 84. It's a February poem, but it's been so cold in Ohio that it probably counts. I'm still putting on my winter coat as I go out the door. The Valentine month for Henry. 34 degrees and the falling snow turns to slush before it can hit the ground. The dog comes in so wet and muddy that I don't notice at first the faint odor of skunk, which flavors everything in February, their mating season. The muck between the dog's toes is a perfect marriage of ice and rain and the sludge of an empty cornfield, where he loves to hunt for small, amorous things in this, the Valentine month. He luxuriates in the towel rubbed the length of his spine, but remind us not to touch his feet. How easily spring nudges us into the present, the smell of a wet dog almost inviting, intimate in a grungy sort of way. If I were not so concerned about the carpeting and fat muddy tracks. What can this month possibly know about spring, about love? Too early for vernal pools, too late to caution the apricot about blooming so soon. I read the weather reports, threatened the peach trees, reminding them of a freeze, and drop little peaches like velvet buttons. Love stirs, nevertheless, and how glorious it is to be towel dried, to be rubbed behind the ears, to know that there is more to come, to know that February is only the beginning. I'll read one more. I'll read the last poem in the book, which Marjorie alluded to. It's for my friend Becky. Survivor. The pine tree that I rescued from a crack in the sidewalk is now 12 feet tall. We planted it in your yard the summer you began chemo. I want you to know that last year it dropped its first pine cones, and this year it hosts a nest of robins. Wherever you have gone, we are still here, amazed by the little peach trees that grow from seeds planted by an ambitious generation of squirrels. The iris did not bloom this year, but the peonies, those aging ladies in pink negligees, were beautiful. I have not trimmed the lilacs as I promised, but I will once the blossoms have fallen. In the meantime, all I can say is that we are doing our best to live a life worth dying for. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Cathy. An honor to have you here. Just beautiful. We are enjoying Cathy Essinger and Telling the Bees, full of dogs and bees and nature and family and history and so many beautiful lines. You'll want to read it again and again. So thank you for all being here. We will now segue into our invited mic portion of the evening. We have 4 more Sheila-Na-Gig Edition authors with us tonight. Actually 3. One couldn't make it, so it's three authors here. And we're going to start And they're all Ohio too. No, not Jessica. Okay, but you're honorary Ohio. So you come to all our Ohio things. All right. So we're going to start with Paula Lambert from where are you at? Dublin, Ohio.
I identify as Columbus, Ohio. So I'm so happy to be here. Cathy, it's just a marvelous book. It's just wonderful to hear you read from it. And clearly, I think we could all, certainly I could listen to you read much longer. I have two Sheila-Na-Gig books. The first is As If This Did Not Happen Every Day. And I was playing with reading something from both, but I think I'm just going to stick with this one, which is the more recent, Terms of Venery Revised. And terms of venery are the collective words for groups of animals or birds, like a pride of lions or a pod of whales, or even a flock of birds. And then within the birds, we have things like, a murder of crows and a charm of goldfinches, like that. There are three poems that carry that title, and I'm going to read just the first one. All three of them are very short, but the first one will give you an idea of where the book goes. It's Terms of Venery Revised for the Anthropocene. An extinction of birds, a ghosting of whales, a haunting of humans, a memory of trees, an echo of monarchs, a sobbing of stars. The other two poems are Terms of Venery Revised for the Church and Terms of Venery Revised for the Ancestors. The next poem I'll read is called Powder Down. It took me years and years and years, almost 2 decades to figure out what this was. I had witnessed this. We've all been familiar with when a bird hits a window. It's always so tragic, or maybe a glass patio door or something. But sometimes they leave a mark behind. And for years, I tried to figure out what this was because I had seen it and it seemed such a ghostly image, imprinted on the window. And I finally learned that it's the dove family that leaves that mark behind, and that image that's left imprinted on the glass is called Powder Down. And I think the poem explains the rest. And it comes at the end to the terms of venery related to the doves. Powder Down. Call it an imprint, what remains of the dove when it hits the glass, a reverse negative. It's something you don't forget when you see it. The first time I was sure it was proof of God, proof at least of the holy. Maybe you thought that too. Hidden below some birds' breast feathers are patches of down that never molt. They grow and grow until the tips break down into dust. Remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Some birds claw that talc back into their feathers as they preen. When a dove careens into what they never saw coming, what they didn't know was a reflection of sky, solid as stone, they leave that residue behind. Some birds recover. Some birds don't. Here are two stories. First, the snow white dove in my yard this summer, released at a wedding maybe, or from a magician's hat, or escaped from a cage in somebody's suburban home. He leapt from the weedy brush I walked through, landed on my neighbor's roof, let me watch him from there. I took his picture. I still might have thought it a dream had my husband not told me later he'd seen the bird from the window. We never saw him again. I looked. Years ago, there was a bird I never saw who left his imprint on the glass. It's something you don't forget. I was sure it was proof of God, proof at least of the holy. Maybe you thought that too. Maybe I was the bird. Maybe you were. Maybe he was. Maybe I was what was left behind, or you were, or he was. Maybe the dove who came to my yard escaped. Maybe he was asking for forgiveness. Maybe the bird had a genetic mutation and was snatched by the hawk I've seen lurking before. So be it. A flock of doves is sometimes called a pitying. A flock of doves is sometimes called a flight. What remains of the dove when it hits the glass is no mystery. What remains of the dove has a name. And then the final poem in the book, This Is Why the Patter of Rain. This was also in the Sheila-Na-Gig journal, I'm pretty sure. I don't quite remember which one, but this is why the patter of rain. Red-winged blackbird, wings aflame and dizzy with joy, asks us to see all that he sees, sunrise, the intricate patterns of light and shadow quivering through every bush and every tree till nightfall, and rain, slick, tasty, making mud of the world. Hear it, patter, rush, thunder, even when it doesn't rain. Dew, how the air itself swells to visible sparkle. Don't get him started on wind, breeze, gale, the tingling it brings to the body, how it holds us aloft. Old crow, charred, grunts and barks her affirmation. I've been saying this for years, that light is a miracle, that rain to a parched mouth is sweet as honey, that darkness is a gift, every night sky offering a velvet tray of stars we couldn't see sparkling in the day, though they're there, and snow sometimes, like a trillion stars falling at once, sending the world into stunned, silent glee. Old Crow knows what the young and trilling red-winged blackbird thinks he's just discovered. Crow's been singing that song so many years, her voice is raw, reduced to a single hoarse syllable, caw. Red-winged blackbird doesn't trust Crow, nor should he. Crow watches his nest too carefully. Old Crow, hungry Crow, noisy Crow. She scans the sky for hawk, heron, crane, scans the grass for fox, snake, weasel, knows that hunger is a kind of beauty, that should swallow the snow and stars if she could, swallow the sun and shadows. So would hawk, whose belly, soft, brown, speckled, is fed by the very thing that bloodies his talons. This is why the patter of rain washing us clean cries in cracks of thunder, why the sun sometimes burns, why the morning dew gently recalls what seeps from every wound. The breeze whispers contrition, and gales beg for forgiveness, and the very wings of a red-winged blackbird pulse with love while they also flash their warning. Old Crow rides the wind like he does, like hawk does. She feels herself dizzy with joy, like he does, hawk does, like the sun and rain and shadow, the stars and snow, heron, crane, fox, weasel, and the tingling that hunger brings to the body. Thanks, y'all. Pleasure to be here.
Hi there, I am Jonie McIntire. I am in Toledo, Ohio, and not only did Sheila-Na-Gig re-release my third chapbook, Semi-Domesticated, which I'm very thankful for, but I've been in the online version, and then also I've been in a number of the Women of Appalachia project collections. And in fact, we were just talking earlier, we have one of those readings coming up this weekend. If anyone happens to be in Johnstown, Pennsylvania this weekend, yes, we'll be there. So it's going to be fun. And I do, shameless plug, have to say one more thing. Bonnie and I are going to be reading in Cincinnati on the first Tuesday in next month. So look for that. That is, we'll see if we can find a link to that. But anyway, okay, shameless plugs going there. But yeah, I have a couple things I wanted to read here. The first one is just, I feel like when we're coming out of winter, where there's like this sort of unlocking, and it's a sort of rough unlocking. Spring is a rough unlocking, but this was actually written more in COVID-y times, but we've rolled from COVID to Trump. So, whatever, like whatever. But this is called When Light Doesn't Reach You, Go Out and Find It. So says my therapist, and in promise to her, I make myself go for a walk every day. Overcast again, I circle a local graveyard, old sweat layered on new in a hoodie worn now 3 days. It hangs on me like shame. She says to shower every day, drink water, eat fruit. She says, go, even when you don't feel like it. On my way back into the neighborhood, I pass a massive black and silver truck shadowing a freshly edged driveway, a man in baseball cap humming to himself as he rips open a fresh pack of bright orange chamois cloths. He is consumed by this task, polishing the already glowing beast that I am sure he has never hauled dirt or even a toolbox in. He circles the cloth on the door panel softly, song in his head so joyous it bumbles out in quiet bursts, and he looks at the reflection, not of himself, but of the sun emerging to spread itself wide, its light so pure, even bent to reach my downcast eye, it finds me through this long stretch of spring. Okay. And then, okay. Here's one that this is a little older, but this was one of my kids had a full convulsive seizure at 12 years old, and that's terrifying. So, so anyway, this is called Paper Dolls. Okay. It sounded like something dropped, a bag perhaps, or wet towels, not a person twitching and 10 years old in a doorway. Her mother, as a child, thought people turned into paper dolls when you could not see them. When it's quiet, you can still hear the low gug of seizure, the light thump of inconsistent elbows. Her mother never allowed Barbies, never bought the high heels or sports car or skimpy swimwear. The bedroom floor, but thank God not down the staircase, a full minute convulsing, a full 12 not knowing. On Easter, she and her mother drew the figures, the shirts and slacks with tabs, the shoes with part in front and part in back. You sit with them when they're still. Keep the eyes open, ask questions that go without answers until the squad arrives. She and her mother spent all day filling in the colors, cutting out forms, creating cardboard stories. There is no place to sit but beside the head of your child, holding the solid palm, her smile pointed at your voice. Calling her mother from the hospital, she confesses she is as thin as flash paper. The world you have built could ignite at any moment. Okay. And here's one that's sort of a found poem using Burger King advertisements and an article dated November 7th, 2023. So November 7th, so election day. And this is called "It Takes Two Hands to Handle a Whopper." It's Tuesday, and I'm waiting for the election results, and I come upon this article. Tareem Gear of Oregon, Ohio is this year's Whopper champion. Making Burger King's flagship menu item takes skill. My uncle in Tennessee texts me, and my mom calls, and we are waiting for votes that are always questioned to be counted. The article quotes Tareem, and I can't believe how beautifully she says it. It is 6 ingredients, and you have to make sure that they are perfect. There are 4 pickles, 2 tomatoes, 3 onions. You have to make sure that mayonnaise is all the way covering the bun. And you have to make sure it's the right weight and temperature so that it's hot and fresh for the customer. I read it to myself again. I'm giddy. I can taste each word. We're up over 50%, and even counties like Ashland and Hardin are over 40% yes to protect abortion. And in Ohio, that is a freaking miracle. I read once that there are over 200,000 individual ways to make a Whopper. Hold the pickles, hold the lettuce. Special orders don't upset us. All we ask is that you let us serve it your way. We can serve your broiled beef Whopper fresh with everything on topper. Any way you think is proper, have it your way. Roe versus Wade was decided the same year I was born, and the year later, the Have It Your Way campaign was launched. And yet, I think about all the messed up, too much ketchup, pickle chips stuck to the bottom of the bun, bad lettuce, gray patty burgers we have eaten over the years, and all the hushed confessionals women have made to each other. I read the article to my son, who says only a poet gets this excited about a burger article. But he doesn't know what it was like. How I scheduled the abortion while he was in daycare. How I paid out of pocket because I was afraid to let my insurance know. How my husband and I waited there with the other women, some all by themselves, some with only their children to comfort them. How D&C was the only option, which meant we all bled and waited. And the article says Tareem only entered the contest because her fiance had done it before and she wanted to get farther. And the vote is declared and issue 1 passes. And in the article, Tareem says, I'm very happy to share this accomplishment with my fiance. And they're going to have a dream wedding with that money. It is 6 ingredients. And you have to make sure they're perfect. There are 4 pickles, 2 tomatoes, 3 onions. You have to make sure that mayonnaise is all the way covering the bun. And you have to make sure it's the right weight and temperature so that it's hot and fresh for the customer. I want to tattoo Tareem's perfect words onto my skin because even while we sing choice, what we mean is live up to the ideal. I call my mother-in-law and text my husband and tell my son about issue 1 passing, and he says it's a pretty good day after all. And he's sort of hungry for a burger right now. And we find one of the old ads. You have the right to what you want, exactly when you want it, because in the menu of life, you are today's special, and tomorrow's, and the day after that, and, well, you get the drift. Yes, that's right. We may be the king, but you, my friend, are the almighty ruler. I read that Tareem is going to try again next year, and I really hope she wins. Thank you.
Magazine called Maintenant. It's a Dada magazine of art and literature, and I'd always wanted to be in it because it's just so beautiful and cool. And it was hard for me to write in this Dada mode. And what ended up getting accepted by them is sort of just an almost 100% faithful recounting of a day in my life. So maybe it shows that life can be Dada a lot of times. We go high. Smokey says the chance of fire today is low, but I am not a forest. I'm a mouthful of gunpowder, exercising my self-restraint, a bundle of squashed impulses, a series of invisible benevolences, a failure to retaliate. I drive around in pods of rage and haunt the strip mall parking lots, collecting juice and tater tots. The god of war checks me out at the grocery, and we nod in between missiles. Sometimes a scream, like a stanza, is short. Sometimes it is long, echoes in your car, all along the parkway, continues rippling inside once you close your mouth, rage slicking your sinews like a toppled coffee, milk dripping into the gear shift, all the crevices ready to rot. The tree full of bullets on my street can't speak. I scream for the trees. A man hit my car, and the cops didn't let me leave until I said the ABCs backwards and the president's name. I had gone 3 years without saying it, but they made me say it and laughed. She's fine. This girl is fine. They took me home because my car was destroyed. Over the police radio, we heard, a man wearing a clown costume is carrying a child under his arm, manhandling the child. Yeah, the ending of that, I think, actually takes additional context, maybe with the events of the last several months. I wrote that a couple of years ago. I've been so grateful to be part of these Women Speak anthologies. And again, as Johnny mentioned, we'll be in Johnstown, Pennsylvania this Saturday. I think that might be the furthest north and east that we've done one of these readings. And Idra Novi is also going to be there. She's a wonderful writer and translator who lives in New York and is from Johnstown. So she's going to be coming back, and I'm very excited about this one. Ballad of the Bells. My father brought me bells back from his trips, so there'd be something safe to say I do. Collecting trinkets like the other girls, not hiding from a monster in my room. He flew away each week to fortune chase, the way he chased each high, chased every girl. Each airport seemed to have bells in their shops. Ceramic, place names painted pink and pearl. I had a big collection, all the states. Nebraska, Maine, Dakotas, North and South. See, we were super normal. Have a look. Then I won't need to open up my mouth. And letters came home from his travels too, from women, names and script unknown to us. I know you told me not to write you here. But once a bell is rung, there's no unrung. They sit on my shelf still, too full of code, to break or give away, sure to bring doom. I'd shake them, but who wants to wake the ghosts? They stay in the museum of my room. They taught me that we cultivate two selves, the secret one, the one that people see. No, I have never gone to Iowa. But he did, and we all enjoyed the piece. I'll read one more. This is on my mind because of springtime and the bunnies running around everywhere. Although it's 40 degrees or so here today, my throat is struggling. I'm also doing another reading on May 22nd in Washington, D.C. I'll put the link here if anybody knows anyone around there. It's a series called Read the Room that's at DuPont Underground, which is a disused metro station that's turned into an art space. So I'm super excited to check that out. Being in the Rust Belt, reuse is always very important to us. And I love being called an honorary Ohioan, even though I'm in Pittsburgh. You all just do so much, and I really love getting to be part of that. Transported. In the trophy room, we are blanketed in browns, antlers on wood, rows of eyes that judge but never speak, racks of knives with custom handles, 50 of them, a new one each year since he turned 18. Cousin Keith walks through, the master of this domain, saying, I've been wanting to see whether I can fix Rabbit the way Grandma did, but I can't get a hold of a rabbit. I don't understand what is stopping him. Maybe the effort to dress such a small animal is beyond his gnarled hands. There are rabbits in my yard every day, but I wouldn't know how to catch one. I live in the city, 5 minutes from Woolies Market. If you can't get it there, it can't be gotten. Keith won't leave his kingdom, loyal to the coal country from which we sprung, so I go. I married a vegetarian, haven't bought meat in over a decade, and when I walk in, I'm sure they know. I find the rabbits and buy two, then notice their origin, China, frozen for the long voyage over. I wonder what Grandma would say if she could imagine it, how separated from the earth we've become. Keith, I'll never know, would never tell, worried he'd refuse them, leaving me with a sack full of impossible decisions. I packed the cooler into my car, and in my yard, blanketed in green, a rabbit munches at me, and I blink back, "You're safe," and it blinks back, "I know." Thank you.
Great, Jessica. Great to hear these new poems. Jessica's chapbook, Gastromythology, was a category finalist for the Eric Hoffer Award during her year. And this past week, we learned that two of our other authors made that honor as well. George Franklin's A Man Made of Stories and Kate Fox's The Company Misery Loves. So excited to work with such talented, wonderful, generous people. So thank you, Jessica, and our other readers, and Cathy Essinger, celebrating Telling the Bees. Thank you all so much for being here. You can find